Cannabis Heals Me podcast, episode 125.
You're listening to the Cannabis Heals Me podcast, where we explore the real stories of real people who have discovered the profound healing properties of the cannabis plant in their own lives. Find more at cannabishealsme.com.
Happy belated birthday to us. Happy belated birthday to us. Happy belated birthday, Cannabis Heals Me. Happy belated birthday, Cannabis Heals Me. Yes, the Cannabis Heals Me podcast is now 2 years old, and I totally forgot to say anything about it on our actual birthday. Our very first episode of the Cannabis Heals Me podcast premiered on October 25th of 2018. We have now done 125 episodes of this podcast. It thrills the thrills the cockles of my heart to know that we have done 125 episodes, been around for 2 years, and we've talked to a lot of people about a lot of different medical conditions that cannabis has helped. If you are new to the program, I'd encourage you to go back and listen to some of those older episodes. Now, I will warn you that the audio was not quite as good because I was still in the learning process at that point, but it's still good content and great people that I've interviewed. It has been a thrilling journey for me to meet digitally these people and interview them and talk to them about the amazing healing powers of the cannabis plant. And we're joined again today by another advocate of plant medicine, Christian Ryan, who is the customer service manager of Ilera Healthcare, which is a fully integrated cannabis company in Pennsylvania, providing medical cannabis to patients there, is joining us today to talk about his story of coming to find cannabis as medicine. He is a veteran and experienced trauma, as so many of our veterans do, and didn't really find a solution to his issues in the pharmaceutical world. Not that he discounts pharmaceuticals, but he feels like plant medicine can be a component in the treatment plan for people who have experienced trauma. Christian, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. I had gotten your contact information because I think Ilera Health had kind of partnered with the movie Unprescribed, or was promoting the movie, and they had reached out to me saying, hey, would you be interested in coming to the screening? And I'm like, well, I live in Texas, so it'd be a little far for me to commute. Mm-hmm. But they had told me that you had a story as far as cannabis as a healing plant in your personal life. So I wanted to reach out and talk to you about that.
Yeah, definitely. So it really started a few years ago. My story is very similar to a lot of other veterans. Mm-hmm. And, I went through the pill mill with the VA and everything, and it just wasn't really conducive for my health, and it put me in a really bad place. And I was dealing with a lot of things, and, being a father of four now, at the time too, mm-hmm. It was imperative that I had look into these issues and try to determine what's going on. Long story short, I was sitting up with my buddy late one night. I decided to move out into the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, and just kind of try and find myself and what was going on and deal with these issues that I was having. And I had smoked pot recreationally when I was a kid. But I was in the Army for 8 years, and mm-hmm. obviously, I
you get bounced if you do that there.
Oh yeah, and just the idea and the stigma surrounding it there, it's very different and very shunned. And even talking about or even looking into your feelings, alcoholism is more appropriate in the military a lot of the times. It's more accepted. Mm-hmm. Than actually talking about your feelings and what's going on, let alone trying, medical marijuana. So yeah, I moved out into the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, and this guy, Randy, he's from Ohio, super awesome guy, down to earth, and we just really became friends and started talking. And he's like, why don't you just try it? Just try it out, see what happens. And in fact, the first few times I tried it, it was very adverse. I had a really hard time. I had either consumed too much or what have you, and it was a really, really awful experience for me. So it wasn't immediately enlightening, but I knew, and my mind was open to trying different methods. I'd already been inpatient a few times, and I'd already, like I said, been on the pills and did the therapy, and I did all the things. I did all the things that everyone told me to do. It never worked. But one thing I did realize, and I did start to understand about my cannabis use and that first initial time, was that it really helped me dig up something. Something that I knew was there, but I was not able to really grasp or understand or try to manipulate or work with, to mold it into something useful. Because I truly believe, without the bad, there is no good. And I think that's why I'm here, is to kind of show people, that especially veterans, and really anyone who suffers from PTSD, is without that, what's the point, I guess,
Yeah.
Alan Watts, a famous philosopher from 1915 to 1970 something, 79, I think. He said, by contrast, we only know black and white by contrast. It's the old adage, the yin and yang. It's togetherness. You have to be together with that, and that was what marijuana had helped me achieve, that togetherness, and starting to understand where healing was coming from, what was going on. It helped me open my mind, open my eyes to those things. And it was fantastic. After that, it was still scary, I'm not going to lie, in dealing with those issues for a lot of veterans and a lot of people who do suffer from PTSD and a multitude of other mental impairments or ailments, have a hard time doing. And I think what that is just acceptance. Accepting these things and dealing with them. And marijuana helped me do that. It was fantastic for that. And so that's where my journey began. And I really started, it wasn't 6 months later, I was slowly coming off of some of the prescriptions that I was taking, because I didn't need them. And I truly believe there's a time and a place for prescription medication. And I truly believe that medicating with marijuana in conjunction with other forms of therapy is ideal. So I'm not here to say that pharmaceutical world is bad. It's not great,
Yeah.
But there's a place and a time, there's a need for it. And with marijuana and getting out and socializing and talking to other veterans and talking to veterans groups like Balanced Veterans, actually, Ron Millward's awesome guy. You should definitely get him on here. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Really helped open my mind, open my eyes that I'm not the only one that perceived it this way. And that's where it began. And so I wanted to get into the industry. I was feeling fantastic about myself, still dealing with PTSD and dealing with anxieties, and, all those things. It's healing. And I wanted to get into the industry, and I would do it any way I possibly could. And so I started out here with the idea that I was going to help veterans. And so, I got offered a job, at the company I work for, and I was actually a security guard. I started off as
really? That's awesome.
So the company was brand new, and I talked and shared my opinion, and I brought it up, with the people at be, and we wanted to push for a veterans type product, something we could help veterans, and then became, Freedom, which was our veteran formulation. And that really came about from talking to a lot of veterans and understanding them and their needs. And there was a big collaboration with a lot of veterans and a lot of veterans groups. Yeah, so Freedom came about. And we got a hold of Allegiance Films. We wanted to do a big thing with Allegiance Films, and they had such a great message. The message that Unprescribed really portrays. I think it's just raw and it's real, and it's important. And it's important for veterans, but I think it's really important for civilians as well. And it shows, the mentality, the mindset, and it also shows the hurt and where it stems from, where it comes from.
Yeah.
And to see changes in these veterans' lives has been, it's been amazing. But yeah, that's basically where, everything really started for me, and marijuana, which has been an awesome ride so far.
Now, when you started using marijuana to help with your PTSD, was it legal at that time, or were you having to resort to illegal sources, or do you not want to say?
It was medical use only.
Okay.
It was medical use only. And so I had really no idea that these programs even existed. And I thought maybe they were so small that they were so insignificant that, maybe it was just never going to happen. And so I didn't truly have an idea. And so it was this huge realization, like, wow, there are people out here just like me, that are doing this. And I think it's really amazing.
So you're in Pennsylvania, right? So do y'all have an adult use program, or is it still strictly medical at this point?
It's all medical. Yeah.
Okay.
It's all medical and pretty heavily regulated. We can't actually smoke in Pennsylvania. We have to vaporize in Pennsylvania.
Really?
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So I'm guessing there's probably not any home grow either.
I'm sure there's home grow, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, not legal home grow anymore.
Not legal home grow. That'd be awesome. That'd be great. And that's, for a lot of us, that's the ultimate goal, is to, get this out there and get this into people's hands. And, and I've heard this on your show actually before, it's not a cure-all.
Right.
It's a Band-Aid.
Right.
Right now. And the medical research behind it is definitely not fully fleshed out. And that's not going to come about until federal legalization, to be honest, or at least a reschedule, as to where we can actually research this and see how we can use it more directly for patients. But I think that in its even in its primitive form now, I think it's very necessary for that product to exist. Just straight flower, it's good for lots of different things.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
How was your wife? What was her reaction when you talked to her? I'm guessing you talked to her about it at some point.
Actually, I was very much single at the time.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind then.
Yeah, I was very much single, and part of the reason why I was single was because of everything I was going through.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was very much about finding myself and isolating myself away from, the busyness of everyday life. And, being a disabled veteran, that really helped me. And I lived off of, Cheetos and, sandwiches, and that was life, but I knew that that's what I needed to do to help myself. And again, marijuana being at the forefront of that was incredible. And it gave me the drive and the motivation to pull myself out of that situation and be a better and more productive member of society, and help people and have the feeling that I am helping.
Yeah. What has the reaction of your family been?
My family's super supportive. Everyone.
That's great.
I'm out here in the grow is out here in a very conservative part of Pennsylvania. And it's been a really interesting change and really welcome. And I was surprised. And, when the grow went up out here, and like I said, I've been there since the beginning, pretty much, first couple months of the company's operation. There was very much this stigma around here. It's a lot of farmers and very conservative people. And too much they're right. but we were very much looked down on. We were, everyone knew we were different and coming in, and I tell you what, it's changed. Just having marijuana here in this area has changed the area. You see farmers markets popping up. You see, it's just the economy's doing a lot better. There's more younger employed individuals in this area. We're the second largest employer in this area, which is fantastic. It's great, and so not only is it changing things on the front of mental ailment, but also in the economy. I think it's great for the economy.
That's great. Now, do y'all have a particular cultivar that you grow, or is it like a combination? I don't want you to give away any trade secrets, but
yeah, no trade secrets, but we grow a large variety of cannabis, varying strains, and some of them are constant and some of them are on rotation. Others, are formulated to be very direct medication, for specific things, for autism, for PTSD, and the stories that you hear behind this is also amazing. I remember releasing a product for autism and just hearing, mothers talk about being able to finally go to a restaurant with their child.
Yes,
and growing up in a family where mental illness and especially autism was very prevalent. It kind of showed, it shed some light, and it was really incredible. It's a very humbling experience to be in this industry. I'm very grateful to be in the industry and being able to get out and talk, share my story.
Sure. Now, in Pennsylvania, is there a list of qualifying conditions in order for people to get access to medical cannabis, or is it kind of you go to a doctor and they say you need it and you can get it?
So yes, there's a list of qualifying medical conditions, and I can't remember the exact number. It's quite a few. And I tell you what, it's really not so difficult to get that card, and I think that's fantastic.
That's great. Yeah.
The better. And just recently, within the last year or so, they added anxiety onto that list.
Great.
Which just opened the doors to so many people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's huge. And I know my dad's a Vietnam vet, and he struggles with large crowds. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you had trouble with as well before you were medicating?
Yeah, to this day. There are things that are really hard to overcome, and that's one of them. And I think that some things that are so instilled in you in the military, and one is being hyper vigilant, being hyper aware, and that just comes straight from training. That's not even from a deployment. I think the deployment obviously amplifies that, tenfold. But it's very much instilled in you, and so that's a very hard, especially for people who spent 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, 25 years. That's so hard to get over. But yeah, those things still plague many veterans every day, myself included. And I think it's just learning ways to deal with that, cope with that, in a healthy and respectful way.
Yeah, that's great. What's the job situation as a result of legal cannabis in Pennsylvania? How many jobs has it added to the state, or do you know off the top of your head?
That's a huge number, right? I mean, I've seen this company go from 15 employees to, I think we're up to a little over 500 maybe.
That's awesome.
400 maybe, something like that, something just crazy. I mean, like I said, in this area alone, there's really no jobs. There's a few manufacturers. There's a manufacturer, a big crane manufacturer, and that was the largest employer in this area, besides farm hands and farmers and so on, and everything that goes around horticulture. But now we're the second largest employer in this area.
Wow, that's great.
And bringing people in too from other states, even across state lines. It's fantastic. I mean, why do you not want this in your state? That it's always the question for every legislator, every governing body. Why is this not in your state? And why is it not legal? Because it's helping everyone. I mean, I think we all know the reasons as to why it's not in every state, but and a lot of it has to do with with money.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I wish that more politicians would open their eyes to that fact. Is like, this is helping people,
Mm-hmm.
and even if it does, put a damper on the pharmaceutical industry, I think we all can benefit from that. Obviously, right?
Right.
What was this recent? Who was it? Recently, they had a lawsuit with a producer of an opioid drug. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
That was a huge, huge
Yeah,
expense.
huge deal.
Won a huge lawsuit.
Fantastic. Like, and I was like, yes, and I think that then the more people that are aware, the more people that can understand. If we can pass this on to politicians, we can fight for it, and that's what I do. I like to get out and talk. I like to advocate for this and numerous other things. Medical marijuana is so important. Equal rights in gay marriage and talking out about systemic racism. All these things are very important, and marijuana is really, really it's a big topic right now, and I think it
Mm-hmm.
could really change the world. I truly believe that.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. If we could ever get politicians to embrace the fact that they don't have the authority to legislate what we put in our bodies,
Yes.
especially the men and women that they've told, "Oh, you're fighting for our freedoms," but when
Yeah.
you come home, we get to decide what you can and can't put in your body to
Exactly.
deal with the trauma as a result of that.
Yeah, that's exactly it, and it's really scary, especially for veterans, especially for disabled veterans.
Mm-hmm.
Because it could really go either way. For disabled veterans,
Mm-hmm.
I've heard stories from both sides. I'm thankful that my story isn't, losing what I have because I use medical marijuana.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for that. But there's so many veterans that this happens to. I think it's it's revolting.
Right. Yeah, there was a case, I think maybe in Mississippi, about with a veteran who had medical marijuana on him, and he got caught in Mississippi where it's still illegal. And I think he's facing a pretty hefty prison sentence as a result.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, you've got these men and women who are in states like Texas where they still can't legally medicate. And yeah, it's a shame that these legislators, and it's mostly states where you can't put it on the ballot and let the people decide. So we're just left to the mercy of the legislators, and trying to replace the old crappy ones is an exercise in futility sometimes.
Yeah, it really is. It's so hard. And I have so many great friends that go out and talk and try to educate. And sometimes it's like you're not heard. You're not. But I want to encourage everyone to keep going, keep doing those things, because you're being heard. If you don't see direct results now, 10 years from now, we're all going to look back and we're like, wow, that was amazing. I'm so happy to be on the forefront of that.
Yeah.
And part of that. So please, by all means, all you advocates out there, like, keep going. It's important.
Yeah. Keep on keeping on. And it's very discouraging work, but you never know. We might be like Pennsylvania and try to get something to break loose anyway.
And it's very rewarding, especially whenever you can see it. Whenever you can talk to veterans, and I talk to veterans all the time, daily. And some of the phone calls I get are just incredible. I get everything from this medication. Has helped me from killing myself. It's kept me from being homeless. It's kept me secure in my job. All these things. Is a direct result of marijuana.
What was your experience like with the VA after you started using cannabis medicinally?
Honestly, I was just honest. At this point, to be honest, I don't care.
Yeah.
I want to know. If that means forfeiting, disability benefits, then, I want to make a point that this is helping me. Now, that's not to say that the VA is all bad, because I'm telling you guys right now, it's not.
Right.
A lot of it is pretty awful, but
Yeah.
some really great people out there everywhere, and especially in the healthcare industry. It's unfortunate that a lot do get overshadowed by, the negativity surrounding it. But there are a lot of really great people, and the people I deal with directly at the VA have been very supportive of me. They hear me out. They listen to what I have to say. I've never once been threatened, about my cannabis use.
That's great.
I've always been honest about it, and I continue to go through the VA. A, to advocate, and B, because I still think it's important, like I said earlier, in combination with other things, it can be a very effective form of medication.
Yeah, it's not just the end all be all. It's just part of the whole package.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. And mental health is a big package.
Yes, absolutely. Have you found that the doctors at the VA have kind of shifted their position on the medicinal use of cannabis? I don't know if you met resistance at first and maybe they're coming around to it now.
I think that there are a lot out there, to be honest with you, that are for it or at least interested. And that's great. We want to pique their curiosity, their interest in this, because like I said, there are some really great doctors out there, as in the VA even, that do want change. They do want some sort of reform. And what I've encountered in talking to a lot of doctors or representatives from the VAs, that it's just hush hush, like we can't talk about this.
It's the new don't ask, don't tell.
Their jobs on the line.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. That's horrible. That's a bad, that is a vicious cycle. But their job's on the line. And so, sometimes you got to get these people in private to really talk about it. And I have.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they do want change, and they want reform, and they do want to, not only with this, but also with psychedelics as well.
Yeah.
Psilocybin. There's already been studies done, which is fantastic as well. But there are a lot of people out there that are fighting for this. Yes, and they do want change, and I have talked to them. And the issue is really getting these politicians behind it and getting this scheduled so that the VA can start research and development of medical marijuana related products for veterans.
Yeah, because if it was a Schedule 2 instead of Schedule 1, then they would have a lot more latitude, correct?
Yeah, that's very
true. Now, are psychedelics, are they considered Schedule 1 as well?
Schedule 1 psychedelics are not considered Schedule 1, actually.
Okay.
Are they or are they not? I don't think so. No. I don't
know. I'm kind of like on a one-track mind here.
But I don't want to say yes for sure, and then someone else like, oh, that guy's totally wrong. But I'm almost very certain they're not Schedule 1, which is really interesting. I think cocaine is Schedule 2.
I think so, which is crazy.
Heroin, I believe, is Schedule 2. Is it?
It seems like it. I know there's other drugs that most people would consider much more dangerous are Schedule 2 versus Schedule 1 with marijuana.
And I think the entire construct of that anyway is just completely preposterous.
Yeah.
It's not something to look at. It's just something that we can convince our politicians that does not need to exist.
Right. Right. It's like, why don't you let those decisions be between doctors and patients and not involve a layer of bureaucracy in it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But even in the states that legalize, they still want to add on that bureaucracy. And the crazy thing is that the people that then get involved in bureaucracy to make the rules, they don't know anything about cannabis.
No.
So you're having to educate them and bring them up to speed along the way.
Yeah. Many of the politicians that are still in office now are still, this is your brain on drugs. This is exactly what they think. This is, if you smoke weed, it's going to rot your brain. It's ridiculous. And some of the other just completely appalling things that have ever been said about marijuana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we've had those struggles here in Texas. It's almost like until them or a close friend or a family member needs medical cannabis, it's like they just don't get it.
Yeah.
And it's horrible that it would take something of that nature for them to come around to the idea of the freedom to put in your body what you need to.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't think, unfortunately, that's how a lot of things go, right? I think we're way more reactive than we are active. We need to think out ahead of things. And, in this day and age, everything's information is so readily available, and it's constantly, living in the moment is very hard because the moment's so fleeting. It's so quick, I mean, everything's a flip of the thumb now, scrolling through your feed. And so nothing ever changes or gets done because not enough people stop to think about it and talk about it to actually make those changes, thankfully some people are, about certain issues. And I think this is one that needs to continue.
Yeah. Well, I've always said that the nice thing about this issue is it seems to be, it's not a partisan issue. You can deal with people on the right, on the left, in the middle, wherever. And that's, to me, is my favorite thing about it, because we can all come together and work towards a common purpose and not be divided down these political lines like we normally are.
I really wish we could get rid of that political bias, from either party. I wish that, I talk about this a lot too. I think that, we are the people of America, and we need to unite to really correct these issues. And together, divided we fall. And that's exactly what's happening now. And it's so easy to fall down that path. It's so easy to be divided when there's so many issues that could be corrected if we were to work together on this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. And I think cannabis is a great a great path. It shows us a great path forward. That people from all aspects and all stratum can come together and work on this one issue. Yeah. And really, to me, it all goes back to freedom and liberty and the ability to decide what you can put in your own body and not have the government legislate that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like we were just saying, people don't realize until they need it, right? Mm-hmm. And some politician's mother is sick and, in bed with cancer and needs some relief. And the only relief she's finding is medical marijuana. And why do we have to why are we there? Why weren't we there before?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and all the new ways to use cannabis that they're finding, they were in the pharmacopoeia back in the 30s. Yeah. It's like, these aren't new.
None of this is new.
Yeah.
I mean, the nail that you use on your dab rig is one of the most ancient forms of vaporizing anything that ever existed. Mm-hmm. These are very, very old, tried and true methods, and it's incredible that it's illegal to begin with.
Right. Right. Well, tell me a little bit more about Ilera Health. I know y'all, it looks like y'all have just gone gangbusters as far as growth and stuff goes. Is it just a grow, or do y'all have dispensaries as well?
No, so we do have this dispensary. So we're vertically integrated. So we have, we grow all of our own product, we produce all of our own product, and we dispense our product. We dispense our product to, I believe, 88 dispensaries in Pennsylvania. We've come up in New Jersey recently.
Oh, great.
Coming on board there. So really expanding out. We have people within the company that do research and development with our products, that do case studies. That way we can have that information behind our products, and that's important. It's important to appeal to a large market to get as much of this out, as possible for the people. Yeah.
Are there limits in Pennsylvania? Are there limits on how many companies can be? Because I know some states have really restrictive, you can only have this many companies. Is that the way Pennsylvania is structured?
So as far as I know, the licenses, a certain amount of licenses were given out. Now, how that was given out, I was not a part of that. Whether that been a lottery or something, but there is a specific amount of licenses that are given out in Pennsylvania, and then you would then apply for that license. Yeah, so it's definitely regulated as to how many grows can be in Pennsylvania.
Okay. If there are veterans listening to this and they want to get involved in the cannabis movement, what are some organizations that you would recommend they reach out to?
Oh, there's tons. There's Balanced Veterans. There's honestly, if you Google search cannabis and veterans, you're going to find a huge network of help. The people are there and they want to talk to you. They want, they want to help. I think that's important for veterans to realize, is like, it's really okay to talk about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's necessary and it's important. It's part of your personal development and your growth as a human. It's your responsibility as a veteran. As a human, it's your responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
There's tons of organizations across the United States. You can walk into dispensaries and ask them, and they have a list of veterans programs.
That's great.
I've talked to the VFW about partnering with different veterans organizations and getting them information out there. And so the information is there for you, and people are there for you, and they're not hard to find.
Yeah.
You guys can look me up on Facebook. Just, Christian Ryan, look me on Facebook. You want to look, reach out there. Balanced Veterans. There's just some. There really is. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned talking to the VFW about partnering. How was that when you go and talk to them? How do they receive you? Because is it mostly older guys, older vets that are in these VFWs, like, from the Vietnam and whatever? How do they receive you when you come in to talk to them about this?
It's actually been really positive. I think it's really hard to get through to veterans. It really is. Like I said earlier, alcoholism is totally unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
It's an acceptable form of behavior, and an acceptable way to cope with your issues. And
our local VFW has like a full bar.
it's don't talk about it. You're a warrior. You're
suck it up, Buttercup.
Suck it up. And part of being a warrior is also understanding, what you need to take care of interpersonally.
Mm-hmm.
That makes you strong as well. And it's a horrible misconception that, not digging for the truth for yourself, not talking about it, that's a great disservice to yourself, and others, because your story can also be shared. Your story can also help other veterans and even other people who just suffer from PTSD, regardless of what that is. I talk to a large variety of people, not just veterans, and I love to hear people's stories, and I like to share my own and talk about it in depth with them. It's incredible to see the change in someone's life, talking to them 6 months into their healing and their development with medical marijuana versus a year. It's incredible. And it does make you stronger. It really does.
Well, Christian, I really appreciate your time today. You had mentioned earlier that if folks want to reach out to you, they can do it on Facebook. Is that the best place for them to find you?
You can also email me at christian.scott.ryan@live.com, so you can get me there. That's really the best place to reach me, is through my personal email.
Okay.
By all means, reach out. If anyone wants to look me up on Facebook, look me up on there. I'm always available to talk to anyone. If you need a place to go, need a place to talk to, need some direction or anything. If I don't know the answer, I'll find the answer. I'll get you to the right people. Anything I can do for this community and the veterans community, I'll go above and beyond.
That's great. Now, if folks are interested in checking out the products that Ilera has, what is the best place for them to go for that?
So you can go to ilerahealthcare.com. You can also go to the apothecarium.com. The Apothecarium is our dispensaries. Ilera Healthcare is the company that grows it all.
Okay, perfect. Well, I will include links to all this stuff in the show notes for today's episode, and I really appreciate the time today.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. Show notes for today's episode can be found out at cannabishealsme.com/125. If you live in Pennsylvania, go check out Ilera Healthcare and see if they have a product that can help you. We are actually going to be back here, if you can believe it or not, back here on Thursday with an educational episode. And I've got one of two that I can put out. I don't know which one it's going to be. So you'll have to tune in on Thursday. So make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. That way you can get an update on when that episode comes out. And it'll be a surprise to both you and me when the episode comes out as far as what it's going to be about. So thank you so much for listening. If you enjoy the content that I put out and you just can't get enough of me once a week, go check out my other podcast, justaddliberty.com. We just launched earlier this month. Actually, I guess since today's November, it just launched last month. So Just Add Liberty, it is on all the podcast apps. And if you would go out and give us a rating review on the Cannabis Heals Me podcast, if you like Just Add Liberty, give us a rating or review there as well. Thank you again so much for listening, and we will be back here later this week with an educational episode. Hit the subscribe button and you'll never miss an episode of the Cannabis Heals Me podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider leaving us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or whatever podcast app you're using. Do you have a suggestion for a guest on Cannabis Heals Me? Send an email to podcast@cannabishealsme.com. We'd love to hear from you. Please do not take any information from Cannabis Heals Me or its guests as medical advice. Contact your licensed physician before taking cannabis or using it for medical treatments.